Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Tuesday, August 18th. I'm Soreath Hok. A state program is bracing for an uncertain future for workers in the oil and gas industry.
And it does that by allocating money to support training, education, getting new certificates.
But can it stay funded? That conversation, including how workers can access the program, is coming up. But first, these headlines. The Fresno Teachers Association is calling for a Fresno Unified School Board member to resign. The FTA put out a statement on Monday saying the union has lost trust in Keisha Thomas. She's currently involved in a defamation lawsuit brought by a former high school coach in Fresno. During a taped interview in 2022, Thomas claimed that the coach allegedly used a racial slur against her son. Last week, Thomas's own son released a statement saying the claim against the coach was not true. The school district has requested to be removed from the lawsuit. Thomas is also running for Fresno City Council. New polling shows more Californians are likely to support the billionaire's wealth tax and oppose a measure requiring voter ID. Laura Fitzgerald with our newsroom partner, Capital Public Radio, has more.
The poll by the UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies indicates 48% of respondents support the wealth tax, while 41% oppose. The measure, known as Proposition 40, would impose a one-time 5% tax on billionaires' assets as of January 1st this year. The poll shows voters were less aware of two countermeasures aimed at canceling the tax. A slight majority, 51%, said they'd vote no on a proposal to require proof of citizenship to vote, Proposition 39. 42% said they'd support it. The measure would require voters to show a government-issued ID card when voting in person or posting the last four digits of their social security number on their ballot. The respondents who said they'd support the wealth tax and oppose the voter ID measure were overwhelmingly Democrats. In Sacramento, I'm Laura Fitzgerald.
A rally will be held today to protest the construction of AI data centers in Tulare County. Residents will gather at the Tulare County Fairgrounds to voice their concerns. This comes after a company called Global Stack made proposals to build two data centers at the Kings and Tulare County Fairgrounds. Sandra Van Scotter is a candidate for California's 20th congressional district. She says concerns over air, water, and noise pollution have not been addressed, but they need to be.
We're already seeing the impact of data centers that have already been developed in other parts of the country and the effect that it's having on those communities.
In the meantime, two Valley cities are discussing data centers. Last week, Hanford issued a statement opposing any proposed data center facilities that aren't fully vetted with public input. Visalia is considering a measure that would prohibit the development and approval of data centers in the area.
Summer in the Valley brings triple-digit temps and the KVPR $10,000 drawing. Your $100 ticket gives you a chance to win $10,000, thanks to our sponsor, Fresno Mazda. Tickets are limited to 800 sold. Runner-up prizes are a two-night stay in Pismo Beach and $250 to dine at restaurants in your community. Purchase tickets at kvpr.org/10K.
And now to our main story. Highly skilled, with technical expertise and a long work history. Sounds like the perfect job candidate. These characteristics often describe workers from the oil and gas industry, but as California moves toward a clean energy future, these workers are at risk of a late career job hunt. In Kern County alone, the oil and gas industry employs thousands of people. So as the industry continues to change, a state program is stepping in to help bridge the gap before more jobs disappear. I spoke to Julie Small, a reporter with KQED, about how the so-called Displaced Oil and Gas Workers Fund works and the current fight to keep it alive.
There's about 94,000 people employed in the oil and gas industry. These are often unionized jobs with benefits. These are highly skilled workers functioning in very dangerous environments. They might have a lot of the technical skills. What they're finding is they have a lot of project management as well. And of course, there's a huge safety culture in the oil and gas industry. People are used to planning out a job to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Right. So they have kind of an array of skills, a lot of it technical and a lot of experience too.
Right. And that's the thing. Many of the workers, that their experience comes completely from being on the job, from decades on the job. And there may not necessarily be like a certificate that shows everything that they know how to do and have done.
Yeah. And the tension that we're seeing right now is that California is actually trying to move away from that industry in favor of more clean energy production in the state. And that has led to some closures and conversions of oil refineries in the state. So what has that shift done to the job market in the oil and gas industry?
Well, it's made it very unpredictable, and it has shrunk. I mean, in recent years, like just since 2020, there have been 6 refinery closures in 6 years. But that has only amounted to about 2,000 direct jobs, but there's also a lot of contract workers, thousands of contract workers who have been affected by those closures. So the numbers are not extremely high, but because it's so specialized and it's so hard to transfer to something else, it has a huge impact. It's devastating.
Yeah, and one of the counties that has really seen a lot of impact and potential for more is Kern County, right, which has a huge stronghold in the oil industry.
Yes, Bakersfield's kind of like the epicenter for this contraction of the industry. They have about 6,100 people. Like in Bakersfield alone, there's 6,100 people who work in the oil and gas industry. And some academics have predicted that 40% of those jobs are going to disappear in the next decade or so. And in Kern County specifically, there's a smaller labor market. I mean, so there's fewer opportunities of industries they can transfer into or find new jobs in. So it's, again, not so much the numbers as just the condition of the labor market.
And Julie, in your recent report, you focus on efforts to capture this existing workforce and basically transition them to other career fields, because you said there's not a lot of opportunities sometimes where they are. And it's a state-funded program called the Displaced Oil and Gas Workers Fund. Can you tell us more about the fund and what it hopes to do?
Well, it's a $30 million fund that the state approved back in 2022, and it's supposed to help displaced oil and gas workers find comparable jobs in new industries. And it does that by allocating money to support training, education, getting new certificates, and just getting them a lot more support from like workforce boards. United Steelworkers Union has also, part of this. They've created opportunities for their members by using this money. It's $15,000 per person towards whatever they want to do, as long as the state approves it as a legitimate program. And also some extra money, for job-related costs. That could even be job search-related costs, like gasoline to get to the job interview, ironically. So that's, it's not a total solution, but it's a lot more than what was available back in 2020 when the Marathon refinery closed up here in Contra Costa County. That was a really sudden closure. The state didn't see it coming. About 700 workers got very short notice and very little severance. And that has been studied, that closure has been studied, and, those workers have been followed. And, they found that a lot of them did not rebound. They had to dip into their retirement savings. And so this is the idea of like giving some money towards a transition so that people don't have to fall behind on their bills, so that people have a little assist in trying to find a new role for themselves.
And Julie, in your story, you highlighted a man named Joe Villarreau. He lives and works in Kern County. Can you tell us about how he's benefited from the fund?
Yeah, he'd been working in oil fields for 30 years. He's in his 50s. He has 3 kids. He's married. His last job, ironically, was applying for new oil drilling permits, which we know recently more of them have been released. But he lost his job last year, and he ended up eventually going to the current Inyo County Workforce Development Board and signing up for this program to use the Displaced Oil and Gas Workers Fund, and that connected him to job counselor, and they also have these weekly job hubs. They're really active down there. They've kind of become a model of how you do this work of helping people find new jobs. And they had these job hubs every week where they'd invite employers to come in, people who actually had jobs that they were looking to fill, and also people who were enthusiastic about hiring people who'd worked in the oil and gas industry because they understood this kind of skills they have and wanted to apply those to their own industries. And so that's how Joe Villareau got his new job working for a calibration company in Bakersfield.
So what we're seeing now, though, is that this fund is only temporary. So where does it stand now for all the people who could potentially lose their jobs?
Yeah, the bill is due to sunset next year. There is still $18 million left of the $30 million that hasn't been spent. And so advocates for the program are working hard to get support for a bill that's moving through the legislature right now that would remove the sunset date of the bill and effectively make the fund permanent. Right now, I think because there's money left in the fund, nobody really wanted to talk about adding money. Well, we could see that happen maybe next year once the money that is there is spent. But people definitely who are going through this process and the people that are helping them with it are finding that, you need time to make a transition like this. It doesn't happen overnight. If you want to find a job, not just any job, but a job in a high-paying industry, you might have to go through an apprenticeship or you might have to get a new degree, and that can probably take at least 2 years. In Joe Villareau's case, he's going to be training at the company that hired him for 3 years. Luckily, they just were willing to hire him on the spot because they saw the owner said he wanted to work with oil and gas workers because of their great work ethic and their safety culture.
Well, we appreciate you reporting on this subject. Julie Small, reporter with KQED, thanks so much for joining us and helping us understand this better.
Thank you, Soreath.
And that's today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR. I'm Soreath Hok. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
The fatal shooting of a teenager at a protest in Seattle has gone unsolved for 6 years.
This is open in your face. How are there no answers?
Our investigation has uncovered new evidence and witnesses who say they've never talked to police.
Did police ever call you? Not once.
Listen to We Keep Us Safe, a new true crime series on the Embedded podcast from NPR.